Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping straight into a really interesting report you shared. It's a detailed look at the global ultraviolet analyzers market for 2025.
That's right. And our goal, as always, is to pull out the key insights, the stuff that really matters for you, our listeners.
Absolutely. So this report gives us a snapshot of the UV analyzers market. What's the headline figure?
Well, the big number is the projected global market size for 2025. It's expected to hit USD 1745 million.
Okay, 1.7 billion. That's a substantial market already. But it's growing too, right?
Oh, definitely. The report forecasts significant growth, reaching about USD 2,953.6 million by 2033.
Wow, that's quite a jump. What kind of growth rate are we talking about?
That works out to a compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of 6.80%, which is pretty healthy.
And what's behind that growth? What are the main drivers?
Two big things, really. First, there's a growing demand globally for real-time monitoring of water and air quality. People, industries, governments, they all want to know what's in the air and water.
Makes sense. Environmental awareness is definitely on the rise.
Exactly. And the second driver ties into that. Stricter government regulations. Rules about pollution control are getting tighter everywhere.
So industries need these analyzers to comply.
Precisely. UV analyzers provide that crucial data.
Okay. So for this deep dive, we're planning to break down this market, look at the different angles.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll look at the types, gas versus liquid analyzers,
Yeah.
and how they're used online, continuous monitoring versus offline periodic checks.
And the applications too. Where are they actually being used?
Right, different applications, different end-use industries, and of course, the regional picture. Where's the growth happening geographically?
Got it. So our mission today is basically to understand where this market is now, where it's headed, and what's pushing it forward across all these different areas.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, let's start with that big picture again, the global dynamics.
Okay. So as we said, USD 1745 million is the estimate for 2025, and that 6.80% CAGR takes it up towards nearly 3 billion by 2033.
And the report has a specific time frame for this data.
Yes, it does. The base year they use for calculations is 2024. They looked back at historical data from 2021 to 2024. The estimate, as mentioned, is 2025, and the forecast runs all the way out to 2033.
Okay, so a solid foundation and a decent look ahead. Now let's zoom in. Regionally, North America seems to be leading the pack.
It really is. Holds the largest share right now, over 40% of the total revenue.
Wow, 40%.
Yeah. The market size there is projected at USD 488.60 million for 2025. And the growth rate, the CAGR from 2025 to 2033, is expected to be around 5.3%.
And within North America, is it mostly the U.S.?
The U.S. is definitely the dominant player, projected at USD 385.51 million in 2025, growing at about 5.1%.
Oh, wow.
Canada's next, expected around USD 58.63 million, but with a slightly faster growth rate, actually 6.1%. And Mexico is about USD 44.46 million, growing at 5.8%.
So what's driving that strong position in North America?
Well, the report points to increased investment in environmental monitoring infrastructure. That's a big part of it.
Makes sense.
But what's also really interesting is the integration with smart city initiatives and, the Internet of Things, IoT.
Connecting these analyzers up.
Exactly, using them for real-time, widespread monitoring. Think air quality grids in cities or continuous water monitoring systems. It allows for much quicker responses if pollution levels spike.
That integration aspect is key.
Yeah.
Okay, let's cross the Atlantic. Europe. Also a big player, I gather.
Yes, very significant. Europe accounts for over 30% of the global market. The size there is projected at USD 418.80 million in 2025.
And the growth rate?
A little higher than North America's overall rate, actually. Expected CGR of 5.6%.
And the country breakdown in Europe, it's quite varied, isn't it?
It really is. You've got the UK around USD 70 million with a strong 6.4% CAGR. Germany is the largest single market in Europe, projected at nearly USD 83 million, growing at 5.8%.
Germany leading there.
Right. Then France is a bit smaller, USD 38.5 million, 4.8% growth. Italy, similar size, USD 36 million, 5.0% growth. Russia is quite substantial too, almost USD 65 million, though growing a bit slower at 4.6%. And then you have Spain, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, even Luxembourg all contributing, with CAGRs mostly in the 4.7% to 5.9% range. The rest of Europe combined adds another almost $59 million.
So what's the main story in Europe? What's the big push?
A lot of it comes down to water. There's a really strong focus on upgrading water treatment and wastewater management facilities.
Why a focus on water specifically?
Concerns about water scarcity in some areas and water contamination issues, there's a big drive to modernize infrastructure to cope with that.
And UV analyzers are critical for that.
Absolutely. They're essential for monitoring the quality of the water, making sure treatment processes are working effectively, and meeting those, pretty strict European standards. Countries like Germany, the UK, France are really pushing these upgrades.
Got it. Water infrastructure is key in Europe. Now let's shift to Asia Pacific. The report flagged this as a major growth area.
Oh, absolutely. APAC currently holds about 23% of the market share. That's around USD 680.5 billion estimated for 2025.
Okay, smaller share than NA or Europe
Yeah.
currently, but the growth.
Exactly. That's the headline for APAC. It's projected to be the fastest growing region by a significant margin. The CAGR is expected to be 7.8% between 2025 and 2033.
Nearly 8%. That's impressive. And within APAC.
China is the giant, naturally. Expected market size of about USD 285.8 million, growing at 7.3%. A lot of that is just fueled by its ongoing industrial expansion.
Makes sense.
Japan is next, around USD 94 million, 6.3% growth. South Korea, about USD 81.82 million, 6.9% growth.
Okay.
But the real standout in terms of growth rate is India.
Yes, you mentioned that.
Yeah, projected market size is smaller, about USD 68 million, but the CAGR is forecast at a remarkable 9.7%.
Almost double digits. Why such rapid growth in India?
It seems to be driven by a major push for real-time monitoring to meet new, stricter environmental regulations, both air and water quality. It's a big policy focus.
I see. And the rest of APAC?
Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, Southeast Asia all showing strong growth too. CGRs between 7% and 8.6%. Singapore and Southeast Asia are particularly high. The rest of APAC adds another 30 million or so.
So the overall picture in APAC is driven by industrialization, urbanization, and specifically in India and China that push for better environmental monitoring alongside growth.
You've got it. The pressures on air and water quality are immense due to that rapid development, so the need for monitoring solutions is just booming.
Okay, let's move south. South America, what's the situation there?
South America represents a smaller portion, over 5% of the global market. The projected size for 2025 is around USD 52.35 million.
And the growth?
Pretty strong, actually, a TGR of 7.2%.
Okay, and within the region?
Brazil is the largest market, expected at USD 22.4 million, growing at 7.8%. But Argentina actually has the fastest projected growth in South America, 8.1% CAGR, though the market size is smaller, about USD 8.8 million.
Interesting. Argentina leading the growth base.
Yeah. Then you have Colombia, Peru, Chile, all in the $3 to $5 million range, with KGRs around 7 to 7.5%. The rest of South America adds another 8 million or so.
What are the key drivers in South America, similar to other regions?
There's a strong emphasis on government initiatives, particularly focused on improving water and wastewater treatment infrastructure. Countries like Brazil and Argentina are investing significantly to improve clean water access and treatment.
So like Europe, a big focus on water infrastructure.
Yes, driven by public health concerns and sustainability goals. UV analyzers are key for monitoring quality and disinfection effectiveness there.
Okay. Next up, the Middle East. Smaller share again, but potentially strong growth.
That's right, around 2% of the global market, projected size of USD 66.31 million in 2025, but with a robust AGR of 7.5%.
And the key countries.
Saudi Arabia leads, about USD 23.3 million, growing at 7.8%. The UAE is next, around USD 13.6 million, but with an even faster growth rate of 8.0%.
UAE slightly faster growth than Saudi Arabia.
Yep, and Turkey is also showing very strong growth, 8.1% CAGR on a smaller base of about 5.3 million. Qatar and Egypt have solid growth too, and the rest of the Middle East contributes nearly 15 million.
What's fueling that 7.5% growth in the Middle East?
A lot of it ties into the region's big investments in, well, two areas. Renewable energy, like solar power, and sustainable water management, like desalination.
Interesting link. How do UV analyzers fit in?
Well, these large-scale projects require sophisticated environmental monitoring to manage their impact and meet international standards. UV analyzers are used to check water quality and desalination, monitor emissions around power plants, and generally ensure these green projects are performing as expected environmentally.
Got it. Monitoring the sustainability initiatives themselves. Finally, Africa. Smallest share currently.
Yes, around 1% of the global total. Projected size for 2025 is USD 38.39 million.
But still growing.
Still growing, yes. A projected CGR of 7.1%.
And the breakdown in Africa.
South Africa is the main market, about USD 13.5 million, and it has the fastest growth in the region at 8.0%. Nigeria's is much smaller, around 3 million, growing at 7.3%. The rest of Africa makes up the remaining almost 22 million, growing at 6.3%.
And the primary driver in Africa, is it also water-related?
Very much so. Given the serious challenges with waterborne diseases in many parts of the continent, there's an increasing focus on water treatment and ensuring safe drinking water. UV analyzers, especially for UV disinfection monitoring, are becoming more common.
Right, a direct public health driver.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that regional breakdown is fascinating. Shows how different priorities shape the market globally. Let's shift gears now to the types of analyzers, gas versus liquid.
Okay, so the report suggests that the gas analyzer segment actually holds the largest share of the market overall right now.
Gas is bigger than liquid. Why is that?
Mostly down to air quality regulations. As we discussed, those rules are getting stricter worldwide, pushing the need for monitoring things like nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, ozone gases that UV analyzers are good at detecting. Think about industrial emissions, ambient air quality monitoring.
Right, regulations like the Clean Air Act or the European Green Deal pushing demand.
Exactly. Those frameworks necessitate this kind of monitoring.
But the report also said liquid analyzers are growing faster.
That's the other side of the coin, yes. The liquid segment is forecast to have the higher growth rate.
And the reason for that? Back to water again.
Pretty much. The escalating demand for better water and wastewater treatment is the key driver here. Concerns about scarcity, contamination, it's leading to huge investments globally.
And UV analyzers are used for what specific parameters in water?
A range of important ones. Things like TOC, total organic carbon, which tells you about organic pollutants, COD, chemical oxygen demand, DO, dissolved oxygen, vital for aquatic life, and turbidity, which is basically water clarity. Monitoring these helps ensure water is safe and treatment is working.
TOC, COD, DO, turbidity.
Got it.
So air regs boost gas, water needs boost liquid, with liquid growing fastest. Makes sense. Now, what about how they're deployed? Online versus offline?
Right. The online monitoring segment holds the lion's share of the market currently.
Online meaning continuous, real-time data.
Exactly. Think water treatment plants, pharmaceutical manufacturing, food and beverage, environmental monitoring stations. Many applications need that constant data stream. It's vital for process control, immediate alerts if something goes wrong, and proving continuous compliance.
So the need for instant data drives the online market. But offline is growing rapidly too.
It is, and the main reason seems to be cost effectiveness.
Ah, the offline units are cheaper.
Generally, yes. The initial purchase price is lower, and they're often a better fit for smaller operations or for labs or situations where you only need periodic checks, not 204/7 surveillance. You don't need the same complex setup.
So for maybe smaller companies or specific research tasks.
Precisely. Or in regions where the cost of full online systems is prohibitive, it offers a more accessible entry point for UV analysis.
Okay, a trade-off between real-time data and cost scale. Now, applications. Where are these liquid and gas analyzers actually being put to work?
Well, sticking with the theme, the liquid application segment currently has the largest market share. A huge area is wastewater treatment.
Monitoring the outflow.
Exactly. Checking parameters like TSS, total suspended solids, COD again, ammonia, BOD, biological oxygen demand, all to make sure the discharged water meets environmental regulations.
BOD. Okay, another key water parameter.
Right. And another big liquid application area is the food and beverage industry, using UV for sterilization, disinfection, quality control on liquids.
Makes sense. And the gas applications, that segment was growing fast too.
It is. A key area is chemical production. Monitoring reactant gases, byproducts, helps optimize the process, improve yields, ensure safety. Think detecting chlorine or ammonia leaks, for example.
Process optimization and safety in chemical plants.
Right. And another big one is the energy sector, monitoring combustion processes in power plants or industrial furnaces.
Efficiency.
Efficiency, yes, and emissions control. Measuring things like CO2, oxygen, helps fine-tune the burning process for less pollution and better fuel economy.
Okay, so the report lists specific applications like pure water analysis, processed liquid, wastewater, chemical analysis for liquid, and then air quality, emission monitoring, process monitoring for gas.
Yes, those are the main categories it breaks down into. Covers that whole spectrum we just discussed.
Right. Let's connect this to the end users. Which industries are the biggest buyers?
The report identifies the oil and gas industry as currently holding the largest share.
Oil and gas. Why specifically them?
Safety and efficiency are paramount. They need continuous monitoring of gas composition. Think methane, ethane, hydrogen sulfide during extraction, transport, refining. Early leak detection is absolutely critical to prevent accidents and environmental damage.
Makes sense. High-stakes environment.
Definitely. But the fastest growing end-use sector is environmental.
No surprise there, given our earlier discussion.
Right. It ties directly back to those stricter regulations we talked about, the Clean Water Act in the U.S., the Water Framework Directive in the EU, similar rules popping up globally.
So municipalities, environmental agencies, and industries needing to prove compliance.
Exactly. They need UV analyzers for continuous monitoring of air emissions and water discharges, measuring things like SAVAD, BOD, TOC in water, or pollutants in stack gases.
And beyond oil and gas and environmental, other key industries.
Yep. The report mentions healthcare, chemical, food processing, and research and academia as significant users. And then a category for others, which includes industries like automotive and semiconductor manufacturing.
So a really broad range of industries relying on this tech.
Okay.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. Let's quickly summarize the main market drivers the report highlights.
Sure. Number one is that increasing demand for environmental monitoring, driven by regulations and public awareness.
Got it.
Number two is growing industrial applications, optimizing processes, ensuring safety in chemical, oil and gas, energy sectors.
Right.
And number three is the rising demand for water treatment solutions, driven by scarcity, contamination concerns, and the need for safe drinking water.
Environmental, industrial, water treatment, clear drivers. But what about the brakes? Any market restraints mentioned?
Yes, a couple of key ones. First is the high initial cost and maintenance expenses. These are sophisticated instruments, and the upfront investment plus ongoing upkeep can be a barrier, especially for smaller players.
The cost factor again.
Right. And the second is technical limitations and detection sensitivity. While the tech is improving, there are still challenges in detecting very, very low concentrations of certain substances in some complex situations.
So cost and sensitivity limits are potential hurdles. Now, looking forward, what about major trends shaping the market?
Well, regulatory pressures and industry standards continue to be a massive trend. Things like the European Green Deal, the U.S. Clean Air Act, WHO air quality standards. These aren't going away. They're likely to get stricter, driving demand.
Regulation is a continuous driver.
Absolutely. And linked to that is the focus on sustainability and green technologies. Companies want to demonstrate environmental responsibility, and UV analyzers help them monitor and verify their performance.
Makes sense. And finally, the competitive landscape. What's happening among the companies making these analyzers?
It's an active space. Key players are focusing heavily on product innovation, pushing for better real-time monitoring, more seamless IoT integration, and, crucially, enhanced sensitivity.
Always trying to improve the tech.
Exactly. And we're also seeing strategic moves like mergers and acquisitions. The report mentions Amatec acquiring Navitar and RTDS technologies back in late 2022.
Why those acquisitions?
To bolster their capabilities in related areas like optics and power testing, which ultimately strengthens their UV analyzer offerings. It shows companies are consolidating and broadening their expertise.
So innovation and strategic consolidation are key features of the competitive environment. Okay, let's try and wrap this up. What are the main takeaways from this deep dive?
Well, I think the clearest takeaway is the significant sustained growth projected for the ultraviolet analyzers market. We're looking at nearly 7% CAGR globally through 2033.
Driven primarily by environmental needs and industrial requirements.
Precisely. And we saw how that plays out differently across regions, with APAC showing particularly strong growth, and specific drivers like water treatment being key in Europe and South America.
We also saw the segmentation gas holding the largest share, but liquid growing faster, online dominating, but offline expanding due to cost, and diverse applications from wastewater to chemical processing.
Right. And key industries like oil and gas being major users, while the environmental sector drives rapid growth due to regulation.
For me, the real aha moment, if you like, is seeing how interconnected it all is. The regulations push the industry demands better tech, the tech enables better monitoring. It's a cycle.
That's a great way to put it. The environmental challenges we face are directly fueling market growth and technological innovation in this very specific but crucial analytical field.
So thinking about all these trends, the tightening regulations, the industrial growth, especially in places like Asia, the ongoing tech improvements, it makes you wonder, What other industries or maybe even new challenges might start needing UV analyzers more in the future?
That's a really interesting question. As the technology potentially gets cheaper, more sensitive, maybe even smaller, could we see unexpected applications emerge? Perhaps in agriculture, or maybe even consumer level monitoring someday.
Or perhaps addressing emerging contaminants that we're only just becoming aware of? Definitely something to think about. Where else could this technology make a critical difference in the years ahead?
Indeed. As detection limits improve and costs potentially fall, the scope could certainly broaden in fascinating ways. It'll be interesting to watch.